I'm sitting right next to the spillway coming out through a culvert from my catchment pond. If you followed my videos at all last fall or late summer, you saw me building a couple ponds on my property, and there's two ponds in the same draw of water and snowmelt. But the lower pond catches a lot more water because it's lower. And the upper pond, which we're called the reservoir, that has a big dam on it, which is done with a keyway. It's a keyway dam, and they're common for reservoirs, ponds. And so right now, the snow is melting like crazy. I mean, it's finally not raining, but it's been literally raining for a week solid, which is cool. It's cool to have a really temperate winter. We had a 2-week spell, maybe 2 weeks, where it was cold, minus 30 Celsius kind of thing. But for the most part, I mean, it was late to start. Snow didn't stick until Christmas. And yeah, it's melting like crazy. So anyways, my ponds right now are doing the thing that is the thing you get excited about when you get a pond, is the opportunity when all the precipitation comes in and you get to see if it's doing what it's supposed to do. And fortunately, these two ponds are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And right now I'm doing something really neat. So as I was saying, this water right now, and we'll walk over here and check this out. So I've got this driveway that crosses where this natural draw was that goes through the trees there and crosses the road again. One thing that if the people who built this driveway would have noticed is if they noticed where the spring melt was, they could have just put the road around it on the high side and saved having to do 2 culverts. But that aside, this is the spillway from the pond. So the catchment pond is right through this group of trees, and we'll go through there. And no, my camera's not blurry. It is this foggy right now. We're in a cloud. Then at our elevation, we just get clouds that push through us, and then they go over us, and then they clear up really quick. We've had little moments of sunshine today. It's been really magical. But so this is essentially the spillway from my pond, and we'll just kind of walk through here. It's a bit nebulous, but this time of year, it's a bit muddy, but we can get through. You can see we just go right into a little forest and a lot of deciduous trees down here. It's the only place that I have cedars, and we can follow this water. There's one of my water lines, which is decommissioned right now for the winter. But we're walking through this, and it's basically a really dense, highly rooted, tons of humus in the soil in this area. And if you don't know what the humus is, the humus layer, not the hummus layer, the humus layer is the layer of organics that just is an absolute sponge for water. And that's what's so cool about this spillway that we're walking through right now, is that it's a massive sponge. So if this pond that we're about to hit here ever surged, there's so much biological mass around to absorb that swelling, and it would slow it down so that this just didn't flood. And just look at all these trees too. And it's a real pinch point, inflection point, where the ground comes in here and it comes in here. And so that's why it all comes out as that stream, because that is the lowest point where the land goes. And this is so flat and open around it that there's so much room for the water to move first before down that way. So it's a really cool feature of this pond. And this pond was already here. And it was full of sediment, which was sediment that collected into this pond for, who knows, thousands of years, tens of thousands of years maybe. And so we pulled it out. And every other winter, and you can go back in my vlogs, in my early ones where I'm showing this, but it looked exactly the same at this time of the year, except that it would just be, maybe a foot deep in the center there. Whereas now it's 8 feet deep. This pond isn't all that deep, and because this shelf comes down up from where the reservoir pond is, there's this shelf that makes the water leak through the ground, which I'm having a difficult time with that pond, and hopefully some bentonite clay will fix that for me. But this shelf just comes down here, and so all the water just naturally ended up here. And on our ridgeline on our property, it kind of goes like this, and so there's earth, there's topography that comes down this way and comes into this area, comes through here. And then there's topography past this that goes down here, but it flattens out to another inflection point and it makes its way down. So this area right here is the key line of this draw where all this snow melts. And this is what's so fun about living in a snowy climate and a boreal climate, is that the snowmelt is so exciting because it's a massive amount of precipitation that's moving on the ground, but in a very passive and slow way. It's not the same as flash rains. It's experienced totally different. It all moves slow. And so if you've done your earthworks properly, you see the benefit and it happens so fast. And so it's really, really exciting. So anyways, yeah, this pond is being filled from up here, up there, all around, and then pinching in here, and it's all right here. So if this were to ever flood, how it would flood is if that pond up there collapsed for some reason. Let's say it was so overwhelmed in a biblical event, though I'll show you some features on it that make it so that won't happen anymore. But if it ever did, or the dam broke, it would just hit this and it would all just surge up around here, and it would just increase the flow of that culvert, but probably not enough to just wash out my roads, though. You never know, but we've done the best we can for precautions and hope that it works. And let's go check out the pond up there. So before we head up to the other pond, I'll just show you what I've done here. Is I brought out a big plank, and so I could go and smash that ice with a flat shovel, just so I could slide this pump. I've got a sump pump down there, and it's pumping at, 6.3 gallons a minute or something like that. And the flow out of this pond is coming at a little bit more. I forget what the exact number was, but essentially by pumping, what I'm hoping to accomplish is I will be able to witness if the rates that I'm pumping up and are flowing out are close, I should see a difference in the outflow of that culvert at some point soon. And I'm tracking how long that is, and it'll be kind of neat to see, because essentially everything that's coming in here is going up, most of it. And so this will tell me kind of how long the catchment around this area takes to fill up a surplus, if that makes sense. And so it'll be kind of neat to see what the buffer is between moving the water this way and where it goes out that way. How much is absorbed in all this area around it. So that'll be kind of neat to see. So let's head up to the reservoir pond. Okay, we're up here at the reservoir pond. That's the Keyway Dam. So that's the point where that water would just naturally continue to flow through this riparian draw system where water and snow melt collects. And this is what's coming out. So we're pumping from that pond down below. And it's, if you look at that, and I measured it with the bucket and just timed it. But you look at that, that's pretty good flow. That's fairly close, just even visually, to what we saw down below in the culvert. So this pond is still quite leaky. I used a product called Damn It. It was out of Australia, and it cost $700 Canadian to get here. I think I bought 2 or 3, maybe 3 buckets of it. And no, 2. And it's basically like a polymer. It's totally not an organic product by any stretch of the imagination. But the idea of it is that it's super fine. It's a microplastic. And it just goes into the fissures and walks there. And it did seem to work at first. About a week from doing it, I noticed the pond drop had really slowed. I've got a rod there that I put a clip on. It goes into the pond a bit, and I can keep track of whether it's coming up or down. And yeah, it's been leaking. So it seemed to solve the draining to a point. And then too much hydrostatic pressure above that, it continues to sink. The thing is, though, is right now I've got an abundance of electricity. Even by this time of the year, we have an abundance of electricity. And I can dedicate this pump is only taking 500 watts, I think. Yeah, that's right, 500 watts. So I've got enough excess power that I can pump this at least all day. I pumped it a night ago. I pumped it over the night because we're not getting freezing, so I don't have to worry about the line freezing. It wouldn't anyways with flowing like this. But yeah, the pond is leaking. And so what I'm hoping is going to happen is all this ice is going to melt pretty quick. Yeah, we've got some sun coming as well. So this stuff will melt. And yes, this pond will be constantly draining. But what I'm hoping to do next is once this melts, I'm going to come in with some bentonite clay bags that's just a fine dust basically and sprinkle the hell out of it and try that as well. So I've tried that Damn It product. Maybe it worked to some degree, but hopefully the bentonite clay, if I do enough of it, will work better. And that's probably what I should have done in the first place, but live and learn. That stuff was easier to do than bentonite clay, and it wasn't cheap, but whatever. I did it. But it'll all get locked into that soil, so I'm never going to see it again. It's not going anywhere, especially once I put the clay in and it just seals everything, if that works. Because my problem here is, and the reason why I've got this big thing here is this is like a part of like a little mini secondary ridge that came out here and is in the pond, and it's a high point, and like this is ground that I'm standing on after the snow. And so this pond is full of bedrock. It makes it look beautiful when it's melted, because it shines iridescently and it just looks incredible. But it is a bit of a pain in the ass as far as managing this pond. And it's the primary reason that the water's leaking is that the rock that I have up here is all fractured. It's fractured rock. There's granite in some places, like there was some granite and quartz in here, but there is, it's just mostly fractured rock, and it just leaks. And so I'm just going to keep pumping this because why not? I've got the electricity to do it, and this will fill. And, it will be leaking at the same time, but I'll just be monitoring it and seeing. And a couple notes about this pond. From this perspective is a good place to show it too. You can see right here, those are culverts, and those are laser leveled to, there's a pink on the tree there, that level. So as soon as this water, if it ever does, surges past that, it's just going to start spilling over into those 3 culverts. But there's a secondary spillway too, right here on the corner of this. It's about 6 inches higher than that. And it's basically, I just used my mini excavator to kind of scrape a little drain feature that just goes along the surface, and it just floods out to there, and it would just catch into the same draw and go down with everything else. And so that would be the biblical event. So like say there was so much water coming in here, it was torrential rain for days. That's what it would take, literally. Then this would get overflowed, but then the path of least resistance would be to go around on the other side, opposite end of the keyway dam, which is your most important asset on a pond, is to maintain and make sure that is structurally integral and it's not leaking, and it's your most important feature because it's blocking the water from its path of least resistance. So that's really important. But yeah, that's it for this one, folks. We'll do another update on this pond again soon. And hey, check this out. I'm going to be in Acapulco, Mexico for Anarcho-Poco. I was thrown onto the bill last minute because I couldn't commit. They ask me every year, and I'm always keen. It's just some of my obligations on my homestead have prevented me, and my family prevented me from doing it. But opportunities arisen now. The reason I don't go down to Anarcho-Poco or Heaven in a while is because there's just too much on the homestead that I can't get away from. But now, since winter's almost over, it's not a big deal for me to step off the homestead, and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to be down at Acapulco, at Anarcho-Poco, with tons of great other speakers. It's going to be awesome. So if you don't have plans, if you haven't, maybe you're planning to go already, great. I'll see you there. These events are just all about the networking, in my opinion. It's great to hear people talk. It's great to get good information. But the networking at these events, it'll be so cool to just be bullshitting with people, hanging out in a great spot, and having a nice time. So if you want to check it out, there's a link in my video down below here. If you buy that, it gives you 10% off and then gives me a little bit of a kickback as well. So it can support my trip down there. And hoping to see some of you folks. Take care. We'll see you in the next one.